everyone, and welcome to this, our 5th year anniversary celebration and awards ceremony. It is a pleasure to be here this evening among some of the most hardworking, passionate, caring alumni, faculty members, current students, friends, and family of the Arbuthnot Gallimore Alumni Association, Inc. As one of the founding members and as Secretary-Treasurer for the International Chapter, I am here today to give an overview of the alumni since its inception. But before I do so, let me again thank you for joining us in this virtual forum to share in our milestone as we celebrate our achievements. It was in the living room of Mrs. Marvelyn Gale, past president for the International Chapter, where Mrs. Gale and Mr. Paul McQuinson gathered, and with Mr. Harold Burnett and Mr. Paul McQuinson on the phone, all from the class of 1981, decided that they should expand the group from the class of 81 to incorporate all past students from Arbuthnot Gallimore High School and form a past students association. Coincidentally, while they were busy making plans to formulate a past students association, the class of 82, during planning for their first reunion in July of 2015, heard of the past students from the class of 81 through no other than Mr. Errol Green from the class of 82 and who currently teaches at the school, that they, the class of 81, were assisting the sports department with football gears and computers for the computer lab. I was told by Mr. Green that the past students do meet on a conference line every Monday evening. Once I returned from the class of 1982 reunion, I immediately made contact with the class of 81. On my first call into the meeting, there were 4 persons present, namely Mrs. Marvelyn Gale, President, Mr. Paul Gabidon, Vice President, Mr. Harold Burnett, and Mr. Paul McQuinson. I was the 5th person on that line. Once I introduced myself as past student of Arbuthnot, they welcomed me with open arms and applauded the class of 1982 for having its first reunion. I think, though, that they were too eager to listen to me talking about the wonderful time the class of 82 had at the reunion, meeting up with classmates, some of whom one has not seen since graduation, meeting up with our past principal, Mr. Godfrey MacDonald, our vice principal, Mrs. MacDonald, and past teachers. Members at that meeting were eager to get the ball rolling into the official registration of a past students association, recruiting past students, and the expansion of the association throughout the diaspora. I immediately called Mrs. Laverine Francis from the class of 82, who then told Mr. Hugh Campbell from the class of 82 and Mrs. Marjorie Davis Daly from the class of 1979 about the group and its aim and objectives. Mr. Delroy Simmons, class of 81, Mr. Christopher Edwards, class of 82, Miss Althea Newby, class of 83, Mr. Amigo Wallace, and Miss Shawnette Ray, class of 1993, Miss Tamara Robinson, class of 2016, were among the faithful few who would frequently join in on those Monday meetings. The class of 1981 at that time had already crafted the mission and vision statements, and with few modifications are now official staple for the alumni. Thanks to Mrs. Paulette Palmer from the class of 1981, who was one of the persons instrumental in the drafting of both statements. It was also in the spring of 2016 when our current board chairman, Mr. Harold Burnett, met with our mentor, Mr. Everton Howell, Vice President for the Kingston College Old Boys Association New York chapter, at a function. With his vast knowledge and expertise in the functioning and sustainability of an alumni, Mr. Howell was eager and most willing to attend some of our meetings, answering any questions we might have recommended sources to read, such as the Roberts Rule of Order, and to familiarize ourselves with the protocols to adhere to when running a charitable organization. He said there are going to be challenges among past students as we might have varying views on how to address a difficult situation or make decisions for the upliftment of the alumni. He said we should not be deterred because of our differences, as we are part of this alumni for the right reason. Mr. Howell also encouraged us to ensure that the alumni is registered as a 501c3 not-for-profit organization. He did not stop there. Mr. Howell offered to build a website for us free of charge and promised to maintain it for the near future. All we had to do was to furnish him with the pertinent information to put on the website. Mr. Everton Howell is always willing to answer any questions we have regarding the building of a solid structure and effective functioning of the alumni. He never leaves one of our meetings without repeating these words. Always be transparent in everything you do. Mr. Everton Howell, thank you for your unwavering and invaluable support over the years. Thank you for being our mentor. On October 18th, 2016, the Arbuthnot Gallimore Alumni Association, Inc. was officially registered in the state of Florida. And shortly thereafter, our governing board, consisting of 18 members, was established. Special thanks to Mrs. Marvelyn Gale, the first president for the international chapter, who was instrumental in preparing and followed through with the registration of the alumni. Special thanks to Mr. Darren Johnson, who was elected to serve as the first board chairman and who was very instrumental in the drafting of the bylaws. Your work does not go unnoticed. Our bylaws was then amended in February of 2017 to have 13 members on our board of governors. Mr. Everton Howell recommended that we hire an accountant to file the alumni's annual tax so as to ensure we comply with the state laws governing not-for-profit organizations. Thanks to Mrs. Laverine Francis, who recommended us to an accountant, Mrs. Patricia Cross, who has been doing the alumni's annual tax since our inception for a nominal fee. Formal communications were sent to the Arbuthnot Gallimore High School principal, Mrs. Panton, and to the Board of Governors at the school, informing them of the official registration of the alumni and requested that the alumni be represented on the school board. On December 22nd, 2016, Mr. Amiga Wallace was voted the first representative to serve on the school board at Arbuthnot Gallimore High. Mr. Hugh Campbell then served on the school board from 2019 to June of this year, and currently, Mrs. Diane Johnson-Peku from the class of 1981 is the past student representing the alumni on the school board of governors. As the alumni began to grow exponentially, especially in Jamaica in 2017, we saw the need to register a chapter in Jamaica to work collaboratively with the school. Mr. Hugh Campbell was elected president for the Jamaica chapter, Mr. Craig Lemonis, first vice president, Mr. Dennis Lyons, second vice president, Mr. Donovan Lyons, third vice president, Mr. Christopher Edwards, treasurer, who was succeeded by our current treasurer, Mrs. Rosemary Blake, and Ms. Tamara Robinson was our first secretary, who was later succeeded by Miss Rachel Grant. On February 16, 2018, Mr. Harold Burnett was elected to serve as board chairman and Miss Audrey Samuels as vice chairman and secretary, a position they hold to present. Mr. Dennis Lyon was elected as first vice president and Mr. Craig Lemonis, second Vice President for the Jamaica chapter. On March 1st, 2021, Mr. Owen Brown was elected President for the Jamaica chapter and Miss Rachel Grant Vice President, a position they hold to date. Mrs. Diane Johnson Pecco was elected as Secretary for the Jamaica chapter. On May 23, 2021, Mr. Paul McQuinson was elected President for the International chapter and Mrs. Rona Mae Watson Vice President. Both the International and the Jamaica chapters have their own executive body. We have been able to own 2 bank accounts in Jamaica, one with the Jamaica National Bank and one with National Commercial Bank. The alumni also have 2 bank accounts in the United States, one with Bank of America and one with Space Coast Credit Union. Today, we have over 135 past students on our social media platforms actively engaged in the happenings of the alumni and our collaborative efforts working with the school. The current board stands as is: Mr. Harold Burnett, Chairman, Ms. Audrey Samuels, Vice Chairman and Secretary, Mr. Owen Brown, Mr. Paul McQuinson, Ms. Rachel Grant, Mrs. Rona Mae Watson, Mrs. Nadine Pryce, Mrs. Rosemary Blake, Mrs. Marvelyn Gale, Mr. Darren Johnson, Mr. Ronaldo Lyons, Mr. Dennis Palmer, Miss Shawnette Ray. Throughout the years, the dedicated members of the alumni have been working assiduously to advance the goals of the students, faculty, and alumni. I encourage everyone on tonight who have not signed up to become a member to do so. You can sign up as a member, associate member, that includes our parents, our siblings of current and former students, teachers, or donors to the school. The annual dues for past students residing overseas is US $50 and Jamaica $4,000 for past students residing in Jamaica. Please stay in touch with the alumni and actively participate in its activities. Volunteer your time for building the future of the Arbuthnot students. The work of the alumni would not be possible without the generous support of the past students, the school, and community. Let us continue to give back so that future generations will have greater opportunities. The students we give a notebook, a pencil, or mentor today will always remember that kind deed and will one day return such favor to other students at Arbuthnot Gallimore High School. As we celebrate our 5th year of existence, let us continue to forge that great relationship with the school for the simple reason to give back to our alma mater because we care. And I close with this quote by Arvind Ketach. Never stop doing the little things for others. Sometimes those little things occupy the biggest part of their hearts. End of quote. Let's celebrate and continue to give back. Thank you. Excellence, the goal.